Look at your bed. Count the pillows. Maybe you have a weighted blanket, blackout curtains, a white noise machine. You have built an entire system just to fall asleep. But for 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors fell asleep in total darkness, on frozen ground, surrounded by predators, with no guarantee they would wake up. And here is the part that will make you question everything you think you know about rest. They didn't sleep the way you sleep, not even close. The human body was never designed for 8 uninterrupted hours. That pattern is a modern invention, roughly 200 years old. And the science confirming what your ancestors actually did instead is so surprising that when researchers first documented it, they assumed something had gone wrong with the experiment. Let's start with what sleep actually was before anyone had a word for it. For the vast majority of human existence, sleep was not a single event. It was two. Your ancestors went to sleep shortly after dark, slept for approximately 4 hours, woke naturally for a period of 1 to 2 hours, and then slept again until dawn. Historians call this biphasic sleep. Your ancestors just called it sleeping. The waking period between the two phases had its own name in almost every pre-industrial culture that left written records. Medieval Europeans called it the first sleep and the second sleep. The quiet hours between them appeared in legal documents, in medical texts, in literature. Geoffrey Chaucer referenced it in the Canterbury Tales. A 15th century French physician wrote detailed medical advice specifically for what a person should do during that window. It was not insomnia. It was not a problem to be solved. It was simply the shape of a human night. And then, in 1992, a psychiatrist named Thomas Wehr decided to find out what would happen if he removed artificial light from human subjects entirely. He took a group of volunteers and placed them in conditions of natural darkness for 14 hours a night for an entire month. No artificial light of any kind. No instruction about how or when to sleep. Just darkness and time and human biology left to do whatever it naturally does. Within 3 weeks, every single participant had abandoned the 8-hour block entirely. Without being told anything, without any external pressure, every human being in that experiment independently arrived at the same pattern: 4 hours of sleep, a quiet waking period lasting roughly 1 to 2 hours, 4 more hours of sleep until dawn, the same pattern. Every person, without exception. Wehr described the waking period between the two sleep phases as a state of non-anxious wakefulness, unlike anything his participants reported experiencing during normal modern life. Not restlessness, not insomnia, something quieter, something older. Now, here is where it gets extraordinary. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years living alongside the Jew/Hoansi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last communities on Earth still sleeping close to the ancestral pattern. What she found wasn't just about sleep. It was about what happened during those quiet hours between the two phases. During the day, conversation among the Hoansi was overwhelmingly practical: hunting logistics, resource planning, conflict resolution. 80% of daytime talk was functional, but at night, gathered around the fire in the hours between first and second sleep, the conversation changed completely. 81% of nighttime talk was stories, not instructions, not plans, stories, myths. The histories of people who had died before anyone present was born. The kind of knowledge that has no practical application in the moment, but builds something larger and slower than any single hunt: identity, memory, culture. The campfire was not just a heat source. It was the original classroom, and the hours between first and second sleep were the original school day. But here is the part that changes how you think about your own mind. During that waking period between sleep phases, the brain is doing something specific. Researchers studying the neuroscience of sleep transitions have found that the period between two sleep cycles produces a measurable shift in brain state, a condition closer to the hypnagogic state. Your brain enters in the moments just before falling asleep, when the boundary between conscious thought and dreaming becomes permeable. Modern sleep researchers now believe this transitional state may be one of the most cognitively fertile periods in the human sleep cycle, the kind of associative, non-linear thinking that produces creative breakthroughs, the kind of problem-solving that doesn't happen when the brain is fully awake and task-focused. Thomas Edison famously napped in a chair holding steel balls in his hands, so that the moment he drifted into sleep, the balls would fall, wake him, and he could capture whatever his mind had produced in that transitional state. Salvador Dali used the same method. Both of them were, without knowing it, trying to access the same mental window your ancestors spent 1 to 2 hours inside every single night. Your ancestors weren't just surviving the night, they were thinking inside it. Now, here is what nobody talks about: the predator problem. Sleeping in the open, or even inside a shelter, in a world full of lions, hyenas, leopards, and cave bears, was not a passive act. It required a system. Archaeological and anthropological evidence points to consistent sleep rotation, practices among ancient human groups. Not everyone slept at the same time. Not everyone woke at the same time. The natural staggering of the biphasic sleep pattern across a group of 8 to 15 individuals meant that at almost any point during the night, at least 1 or 2 people were in their waking phase between first and second sleep. Alert, quiet, watching the fire, listening to the dark outside the shelter. The waking period between sleep phases was not incidental. It was the night watch, built into human biology so deeply that it required no organization, no roster, no assigned duty. The group protected itself automatically through the simple fact of not sleeping all at once. One species developed a collective security system so elegant it required no planning, no technology, and no conscious design. It ran on biology alone. And then, roughly 200 years ago, it stopped. The Industrial Revolution didn't just change where people worked, it changed when people slept. Factory shifts demanded consolidated, predictable sleep blocks. Artificial lighting extended the active day well past sunset, compressing the natural 2-phase night into a single block that fit neatly around a work schedule. By the late 1800s, medical literature had already begun pathologizing nighttime waking. What had been the normal waking period between first and second sleep was now being diagnosed and treated as insomnia. A biological norm that had operated without interruption for 300,000 years was reclassified as a disorder in under a century. Historian Roger E. Kirch spent 16 years researching pre-industrial sleep records across dozens of cultures and found over 500 references to first sleep and second sleep in documents spanning from antiquity to the early modern period. The references stop almost completely in the early 19th century, not because the pattern changed, because the language describing it became medically inconvenient. Here is what that means for you specifically. If you wake up in the middle of the night, lie quietly for an hour, and then fall back to sleep, you do not have a sleep disorder. You have a human body. The anxiety that modern sleep culture has built around nighttime waking, the racing thoughts about lost sleep, the clock watching, the accumulated dread, that anxiety is itself the problem. Wehr's participants in the 1992 experiment reported that the waking period between sleep phases felt calm, reflective, and deeply restful, specifically because they had no expectation that it was wrong. The moment you stop treating the middle of the night as a failure, your nervous system already knows what to do with it. 300,000 years of accumulated biological wisdom are sitting inside you right now, waiting for the artificial light to go out. Go back to your bed. The weighted blanket, the white noise machine, the blackout curtains. Every one of those objects exists because modern life broke something your body had already solved. The darkness your curtains recreate was free for 300,000 years. The quiet your white noise machine approximates was just called night. The rest your ancestors found between their 2 sleep phases, that calm, alert, creative window in the middle of the dark, cost them nothing, required no technology, and produced the stories, the myths, the art, and the accumulated cultural memory that eventually became everything you know. You didn't inherit insomnia. You inherited a night that was never meant to be silent.